The date is December the 8th, the night before the 10th running of the Elite Indy 500 presented by Richmar Florist. And therefore that means it's Carb Night, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Warriors for Peace Carb Day event. We've got 4 exciting races coming up for you folks, starting right here with the Freedom 150. My name is Khosla, up here in the booth all on my own. So going to bring you guys all the action going on tonight. But let's walk you through what tonight entails as drivers rev up for, of course, the biggest race of the season with the Indy 500 coming up just tomorrow night. Tonight, during Carb Day, we've got 4 races starting tonight. Freedom 150, so these are the 2009 Dallara INDYCAR chassis. Racing around here, of course, the fabled Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Michael Hossack on your screen right now, undergoing qualifying. AJ Hobson, Mark Murphy just goes to the top of the timing sheets. After this event, we'll pause for a little bit as we head on over to the other side of Indianapolis and head to Lucas Oil Raceway, or Indianapolis Race Park, where the USF 2000s will take part in the Freedom 50. After they get off track, the Freedom 75 will take place with the Indy Pro 2000 chassis, and the night will finish with the Carb Night Classic Sprint Car Racing at Lucas Oil Raceway. So lots of action here tonight for sure, but it's all going to kick off here. 60 laps around the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Relatively small field, at least to start the night. We could see more drivers join in as the night goes on. Some drivers will sign up for certain events and prefer racing certain events rather than some others. As things stand right now, we have 14 drivers signed up and prepared to take the green. But let's, as timing and scoring just takes a second here to update. We're going to try and see if we can get that some of those issues there fixed for you folks. As we're just waiting for qualifying to finish up here. About 2 minutes or so to go. As we watch Mark Murphy right now, the current pole sitter, at least provisionally, as he laps around here, 218 miles an hour, 219 heading into turn number 1. This event, Freedom 100, Freedom 150, used to be held using the Formula Renault cars here on iRacing. Some concerns with the racing there were that it basically became a 2x2 Daytona almost style race. So we're trying something a little bit different here this season. With these 2009 Dallara Indy cars, hopefully provides a little bit of a different style of racing for these guys and a little bit of a new challenge. Some further incentive for these drivers here who are taking part tonight. The top 5 average finishers between the Freedom 150, so this first event here, as well as the Indy 500 tomorrow night, will earn a certain number of funds. So if you take part in both of these events, there's more incentive there. So first place, the highest average finisher between the two events, will win $100. Second highest average, $50, $25, $15, and $10 for those top 5 average finishers over these two events. Mark Murphy, of course, setting himself up well early on. He's another one of those guys to keep an eye out for in the Indianapolis 500. As I'm just quickly scrolling through, making sure I get his starting position right for that tomorrow. That's going to be 12th position. Shane Coogan right now lined up in the 2nd position, as most drivers just finishing up their final runs. Shane Coogan for tomorrow's event. Let's see if we can spot where he is. He's starting 31st. So on that last row, row 11, but going to try and work his way forward in the event. You've also got Sage Karam out on the racetrack as qualifying does just finish up. He's going to be starting 4th here tonight. When it comes to the Indianapolis 500 tomorrow night, Sage Karam will be lining up in the 25th position. So another one of those drivers who will be looking to move his way forward as the night progresses. So as drivers begin to load onto the starting grid, let's walk you folks through the starting grid for tonight's Freedom 150. Mark Murphy then, your pole sitter, just barely beating out Shane Coogan in 2nd place. Peter Dempsey, Sage Karam making up that 2nd row. AJ Hobson, Matthew Weeks, followed by Chad Frankenfield and Nick DeGroot. Kevin Burrell, Tate Lytle, Joshua Osborne, and Michael Hossack make up your top 12. And the last row, Bill Colley II and Brandon Burns make up our 14 drivers taking part in this event. One thing I actually haven't been informed of is whether or not we're going to be doing a 3-wide start for this Freedom 150. I suppose we'll all find this out at the same time together. So that should be interesting. I suspect we'll be doing 2 wide at the start here. So should just be a single pace lap here for these drivers. Folks, for you listening at home, because it is just me up here in the booth, feel free to shoot me questions in the chat, starting positions for drivers in tomorrow's race, questions about the race format that we have going on tonight, anything you want to talk about, or any of the stories that you want to share about these drivers that you're watching from home. Happy to shout you guys out here while I'm on the air. Happy to answer questions, have a conversation with you guys. It's going to be a more casual, type conversation around today's event. Just with the way that it's formatted. This is going to be, again, one last hurrah for everybody to kind of shake off those cobwebs, get rid of those nerves before, of course, taking part in the 500 tomorrow night. Practice just concluded at about 6 p.m. today, Eastern, currently 6:37 p.m. Eastern time. So drivers hopped out of their IR18s, many of them, and into these 2009 Spec Dallara chassis. And I will say they've aged fairly well, I think. Certainly look like 2009 style cars, potentially even older, but they have a certain charm to them that's going to be enjoyable to watch them once again grace this Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Sounds like a lot of drivers are actually pretty new to this car. This is, I believe, one of those free cars that they have in iRacing that sometimes people don't really run too often. So could be another factor in terms of how the overall racing shapes out. We'll keep an eye out on that, of course. But expecting it to largely be a fun event here tonight for these folks. So lights are off on the pace car as we're rolling into turn number 3. And we're getting ready to get Carb Day underway. Alrighty then, Mark Murphy, Shane Coogan take up the front row. What's at stake? It's a chance to win some big bucks with a good finish tonight, as well as a good finish in tomorrow's main event. Pace car is going to peel off to the left and hand over the reins of this field to Mark Murphy. In that number 69 car on the inside, he's going to hit the loud pedal, and we're underway racing here for 60 laps at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Mark Murphy first across the line. Shane Coogan now already fending off Peter Dempsey on the inside, looking to the inside with Sage Karam right behind him. Coogan holds on, though, at least for now, heading into turn number 2 through the short chute. This is where we'll get a good chance to see what the draft package really starts to look like with these Indy cars. As here we go, already heavy defending from Mark Murphy in the lead, so it looks like draft is going to be super, super important as Shane Coogan looking around the outside of Mark Murphy. Look at this outside line in through turn number 3. And he's doing a great job hanging on there right now. Not something you're usually going to see in those IR18s, especially with the aero screen. But here comes Sage Karam holding on to the back there of Shane Coogan, trying to decide who he wants to support, but hanging back right now. It's just lap 2 of 60. Early on in this event, guys already looking racy up front, though, trying to find a way past pole sitter Mark Murphy. Sage Karam, though, slices to the inside, takes over that second position as he's going to chase down Murphy down this back straightaway. Here we go, on board with Sage Karam. This is what it looks like. Of course, no halo, no aero screen, so kind of a different look to what we've gotten used to over the years. Very clear look for these drivers up in front of them, and all Sage Karam can see is clear track in front of Mark Murphy, and he wants that clear track. He wants that clean air, and here he's going to try and see if he can get a run for it. Shane Coogan behind, too far back, not really able to make a move. Peter Dempsey too far back, not really able to make a move into turn number 1, and are we seeing it start to single file out just a little bit here for drivers? Matthew Weeks right now close to the gearbox of Chad Frankenfield. He's going to try and see if he can make a move here heading into turn number 3. Weeks, one of those guys who is a regular in our Cup Series, regular challenger at larger type tracks like this, and showing some solid pace here to start off the event, running P6 where he qualified, trying to work his way forward. Mark Murphy extending his lead just a little bit as Sage Karam starting to fall back a little bit towards Shane Coogan. Shane Coogan falling back to Peter Dempsey. So guys aren't stretching away quite yet, but also not as close in terms of quick back and forth that we may be used to seeing sometimes. Depending on how the package shapes up tomorrow, we could see a lot of swapping back and forth between positions, especially when it comes to our lead drivers. They'll try to do that to get away from the rest of the pack as much as possible if they can. Very different engine note to these 2009 Dallaras as well. I think some drivers have equated them to a vacuum cleaner. It's not too far off, I think. Not sure, actually not too familiar with this particular car to know if that's actually how they sounded or if that's just iRacing's version of this exhaust note. But nonetheless, good racing going on right here. Shane Coogan defending against Peter Dempsey. Dempsey looks like he could have a run here down the back straightaway into turn number 3. Not quite, because Coogan is getting just as much of a draft from Karam up in front that Dempsey is getting from him. So as of right now, Dempsey has to sit back and wait and just really focus on getting those strong exits. And here you see, on board a lap here as we'll watch on board with Peter Dempsey. You'll see the tear-off potentially come off here on this lap too as they're continuously getting hit, but definitely a lift there into turn number 1 as he's feathering the throttle. That's going to hurt him in the short chute. Let's hear that again. Looks like it's flat out though in turn number 2. Gives him a good exit onto the back straightaway, and here we go. Defense from Mark Murphy up in front. Is Sage Karam going to have a chance into 3? He's not quite going to be able to get there, but he could set him up very well coming out of turn number 4. Sage Karam looking very racy early on. And the question was asked, did Sage Karam actually drive these cars? I don't think he was around at the time that these cars were still racing, but yeah. One of the numerous real-life IndyCar drivers that we have in the field. Only one racing tonight, but we'll have a few of them racing in the 500 tomorrow. We'll run through who those are just here right now. Let's see if we can find who all. R.C. Enerson will be one of them. Oliver Askew starting in the 19th position. Of course, Sage Karam, like we see here on our screens. And I believe that should be it in terms of IndyCar drivers. They've been very involved in the elite racing leagues in the past, but here we go. Sage Karam on the front straightaway as they cross the yard of bricks side by side. Karam just gets a nose ahead. He's going to have the inside line into turn number 1. We've got a lead change here. Lap 8 of 60. Sage Karam into the lead. Mark Murphy relinquishes his spot. Shane Coogan, meanwhile, very close with Peter Dempsey into turn number 2, and Dempsey's going to get checked up, has to give up that spot to Chad Frankenfield, so goes from the attacker all the way to the attacked, as he's now just trying to hang on, keep that inside line on Chad Frankenfield. Can he stay in touch? Can he stay in front? Look at this great racing. You're side by side. These guys both able to grip. Tons of downforce on these cars, tons of ability for them to race side by side on this track, and Dempsey hangs on as, Frankenfield may have just skimmed the wall coming off of turn number 4. A lot of action there on lap 8 of 60. Here comes Matthew Weeks as Frankenfield suffering after that hit on the wall outside of 4. Going to relinquish that position to Weeks. Not quite yet. Side by side down this back straightaway. Ooh. Bit of a shaky merge there. Frankenfield trying to find his way back. Weeks defends and takes over that position. Meanwhile, Mark Murphy now under attack from Shane Coogan. Shane Coogan trying to get past Mark Murphy here. So quick of a change in momentum there for the 9 car at one point under attack from Peter Dempsey. And now he is the attacker, trying to get past pole sitter Mark Murphy, while Mark Murphy himself trying to find a way past Sage Karam, who hasn't checked out. This is keeping the field nice and close together. These guys aren't able to run away with it the way the car seems to be handling, the way it seems to be racing. It's going to give drivers opportunities. I think it's going to be difficult to overtake, but it's going to be possible to overtake, as we've already seen so far today. Just waiting to see if anybody sticks their nose out on the front straightaway and not quite. Nobody able to just get that run. And so aero efficient enough for Karam in the lead there, where he's able to maintain a reasonable speed heading into turn number 3. And I'm going to keep an eye out here, see what that speed actually is for the O2 car. Currently about 2 miles an hour slower at the end of the back straightaway there heading into turn number 3. And I'm not entirely sure if we've got a headwind or tailwind there. We can't quite see the windsock that we have here at Indianapolis. So hard to say for sure. Drivers are going to fly through turns 1 and 2. And once again, back onto the back straightaway. The run down to turn number 3. You can barely separate Karam, Murphy, and Coogan. A puff of smoke from one of their cars. I don't know if that was off a downshift or maybe just a little bit of netcode, a little bit of lag in the servers there. Once again, a little bit of a puff of smoke there. Not sure quite what that is. I don't know if any of these drivers are concerned about that. Not hearing anything over the airwaves in terms of radio messages between driver to driver. As we follow that action, Peter Dempsey trying to catch back up to that lead group. Matthew Weeks still ahead of Chad Frankenfield there. After completing the pass, Frankenfield hasn't quite been able to get that run built up to get past. And Nick DeGroot, first driver onto pit road now, was informed that these cars are using the baseline iRacing setup, which means they actually only fill up with about half a tank of fuel. I wonder if this is a strategic call here for Nick DeGroot, or if it's an unscheduled pit stop. We'll find out possibly in just a couple of laps to see if the others follow him down pit road. That could be a big strategy call for the driver of the number 89, who came oh so close about a year ago to winning the Indianapolis 500. Just came up a little bit short at that time. He's hoping to finally grab the checkered flag and a bottle of milk there as he crossed the yard of bricks tomorrow night. That's what he's hoping for. He's obviously got 32 other drivers just as hungry as he is to try and do that. Speaking of the Indianapolis 500, talking about that starting grid, Robert Maleska, your defending race winner, back on the pole. So he's in the best possible position to defend his championship. Chad Frankenfield, though, put in a stellar qualifying effort to put his car in the middle of that front row. Rodrigo Franzoni on the outside of the front row. As here we go. Do we see a move? Shane Coogan peeks his nose out. Not quite able to get the move done on Murphy, though. He might have a run on the back straightaway as they're both starting to fall away a little bit from Sage Karam, but we've got a car around. It's Peter Dempsey. He's upside down on the racetrack, and the caution flag is out. Huge damage to that 03 car. He's off the racetrack finally. No other cars caught up in that, but that's going to change things up. Peter Dempsey looks like he hit the outside wall out of turn number 2. Let's take a look here at the Whiskey Cast replay. Ooh, as we just missed it again. I'm going to head back to that replay. See what we can spot. As here we go. Just, yeah, a little bit tight coming out of turn number 1. Tags that outside wall. Hard hit onto the inside, and you're upside down there. That's brutal. And apparently, as everybody's grinding to a halt there, some issues with drivers not slowing down in time under caution. It looks to be that everybody is running. Kevin Burrell hit pit road, and hit pit road relatively recently. Not too sure what happened here to Burrell. We'll take a look here and see what happened to him. Seemed to be around the same time that the caution came out as well. So it didn't look like he got caught up in Dempsey's issue. But here we go. This is Kevin Burrell driving the number 52 car, now out of this race. He's going to slow it down. And oh, wow, just under braking. Catches himself off guard, and Kevin Burrell out of this one. One of the side effects there of having never driven the car before. As everybody in the field now on pit road. Looks like just 10 cars currently running in this event. As they all hit pit lane. Sage Karam leads them on. Mark Murphy, though, with that first box. And, oh, Shane Coogan just overshot his box. That's going to hurt his pit time here. Let's see how things look as they all roll off pit road. Chad Frankenfield, very quick pit stop. He's going to be second out of pit road. Huge gains by the pit crew for Chad Frankenfield. Brings him from 6th position up to 2nd. Mark Murphy takes back over the lead. Matthew Weeks also moves up with Frankenfield into 3rd. Karam, your leader, falls all the way back to 4th. Coogan, who was in 2nd, falls back to 5th. Excuse me, Coogan, who was in 3rd, falls back to 5th. Hobson, Osborne, Burns, Hossack, and Colley. The top 10 off of pit road, and the top 10 remaining on the racetrack. Both Nick DeGroot and Tate Lytle out of this race earlier on. Tate Lytle out on lap 5, Nick DeGroot out on lap 13. Kevin Burrell, Peter Dempsey both out on that most recent caution. So Mark Murphy back into the lead. Chad Frankenfield with a great opportunity to take over the lead there. And how he did it was half a second faster in his pit stall than just about anybody else. Coogan himself, once he got rolled into position, and that's when the timer starts, was also a relatively quick stop. But Frankenfield hugely effective on and off of pit road. Gives him those positions, gets him ahead of his competition, and just has one car in front, Mark Murphy, as the lights are off on that iRacing pace car. As we're waiting to get things back underway, just want to, of course, shout out Warriors for Peace, who sponsored tonight's Carb Day. Warriors for Peace is a foundation promoting peaceful change in the world to honor the beautiful life of Jack Shockley. Check out warriorsforpeace.org for more information. That's warriors4peace.org. Thanks for all of their support. They've been a supporter here of the Elite Racing Network and the Elite Racing Leagues for some time now, and it's been a pleasure having worked with them, having them on board, especially for these big events that we run here in the INDYCAR Series. They've been great supporters of that, and we love to show our support back to them. Pace car off onto pit road. The field in the hands of Mark Murphy once again as he hits the gas pedal, and he's underway. Good launch ahead of Chad Frankenfield. Single file on the restart. And we're back underway. 1/3 distance complete as we start lap 20, or 1/3 distance will be complete at the end of this one, of the 60 laps here in this Freedom 150. Sage Karam, Matthew Weeks side by side on the back straightaway. Karam slicing his way past Weeks into the 3rd position. He's got work to do after losing 3 spots on and off of pit road. And he's already gotten one of those back. Frankenfield, meanwhile, looks to chase down Murphy as they're still fully getting up to speed here. They've more or less gotten there at this point now. And Frankenfield now two or so mile an hour advantage. Should be able to help him. But he's going to need a good run off the corner to get past Murphy in front. Meanwhile, Weeks under pressure from Coogan and Hobson. As here we go, Murphy defends to the inside, slowly tracks back outside into turn number 3. Frankenfield peeks his nose to the inside, but there's no room there to make the move just yet. And we've got them already nose to tail, top 3 in this pack. Incredible racing here between them. It's not easy to overtake here, but it's possible. And Sage Karam showing just how possible it is, because he's going to the inside of Chad Frankenfield into turn number 2. Or excuse me, turn number 1. And he could clear him all the way in the short shoot. He does. So before they even get back out into the back straightaway, Sage Karam flying right now. You could tell he's potentially driving maybe with a little bit of a purpose after losing those spots on pit road. He now has Mark Murphy. He did it before. He's going to have to do it again. He's going to have to get past that 69 car. Karam with a run off of 3. We'll head on board here. Try and get a first-person view here from Sage Karam of setting up an overtake in these cars at this racetrack. As here we see, that's a good exit off of 4. You can see he's got just a little bit of a pace advantage here. 218, 219, 220. He's going to look to the inside. Karam is able to get there, force Murphy up the racetrack, and he's through on the inside, but not quite yet. Murphy still with the nose out in front, but Karam has the preferred line, and Frankenfield could follow him through as well. Frankenfield could steal the lead here on this move as they're 3 wide heading into turn number 3. Look at this racing here in these 2009 Dallaras. Karam on the inside, Frankenfield in the middle. Murphy has to bail out on the top line, and he's going to fall from the lead all the way back down to 5th. Frankenfield can't hold on the outside, so Karam takes over the lead. Frankenfield second, Weeks in third, Coogan, then Murphy. So your race leader falls from 1st to 5th in just 2.5 miles, could fall to 6th in just a little bit more than that. As here we go, Matthew Weeks trying to work his way past Chad Frankenfield. Weeks, who's never driven this car before, could he work his way towards the front and try and get past Sage Karam? Look at this move he's putting on the number 15 car of Chad Frankenfield. There's a little bit of a blink there from the yellow, and oh wow, Coogan all the way to the inside, and once again for the 2nd lap in a row, 3 wide into turn 1 or turn 3, and it's Matthew Weeks who has to bail out that time. Back to single file. Incredible racing as Murphy dropped a spot to Hobson. He's got to try and get back up front because we know he's got the pace. Obviously, our pole sitter, he's led a number of laps here tonight. He needs to get by that 78 car, stay in touch with those in front. This is a fantastic battle that's going on here for the lead of this race as Frankenfield trying to hang on to the back of Shane Coogan, who's gotten by him, as they're all now chasing Sage Karam, who's about 0.8 of a second up the road. So huge advantage right now to Karam. Coogan, meanwhile, on the defensive. He'll get a little bit of a draft help from Sage Karam in front. That'll keep him alive, but it may not be as much as he would hope for, as Chad Frankenfield stays very close to the gearbox of that 9 car. So as it runs right now, Karam, Coogan, Frankenfield, Weeks, Hobson, Murphy, Burns, Colley, Osborne, a little bit further back. They're outside of this real battle that we've got watching for the lead. It's a 6-car battle. It's really a 1-car battle up front with Sage Karam now almost a second clear. But from second on to sixth, it's just about 0.2 of a second separating this whole crew of cars, this whole gaggle of cars. It's impressive, or excuse me, it's about 1 second separating this gaggle of cars here as Frankenfield maybe has a run on Coogan. Michael Hossack just out of this one. We're going to quickly hop over to the Whiskey Cast replay. Take a look and see what happened to Hossack. Just slow on the inside there. Interesting. Not quite sure what happened. Let's see if we can get a different angle of an incident. Yeah, just looks like Hossack parking the car there. So he's done for the day. Josh Osborne as well hits pit road. Don't quite think that's scheduled. I don't think that's scheduled. Yeah, that's pretty early there for Joshua Osborne. We see him sitting on pit road. Car off the quick jacks. And he's staying stationary there. So it looks like Osborne also done for the day. So back up front, it's Karam, Coogan, Frankenfield. And you got Weeks, Hobson, and Murphy. The Coogan-Frankenfield battle is starting to shape up. Frankenfield staying close to the gearbox of the 9 car. Just trying to find a way past, any way past, if he can. Let's grind on board here with Frankenfield. Looks like he has a run. Trying to just get something out of it. You can see he starts the run, but you hit VMAX and it's tough to really break past that in these cars. And that's what we're seeing here. Frankenfield struggling with right now. We've seen a number of drivers struggle with it over the course of this event. Until these two are very comfortable racing with each other. Barely anything separating these two cars through some of the extremely high commitment corners like 1 and 3. And Frankenfield close to the gearbox. He's might be close enough to make a move, and he is. Frankenfield to the inside of turn number 1, trying to get into second past Shane Coogan. He does. He's clear before they even get to turn number 2. Frankenfield up 5 positions from his starting spot, the biggest mover of tonight's race. But Shane Coogan not quite done with the drive of the number 15 just yet. Looks to the outside into turn number 3. That's not really going to be the way around there. That's actually going to hurt him probably more than it helps. And now falls back into the clutches of Matthew Weeks. So relatively spread out now as we move back to Mark Murphy, who's gotten past AJ Hobson. Did so on the previous lap. Now as we ride on board on the gearbox camera of Sage Karam, can see the view back to Chad Frankenfield from Frankenfield. That view back to Shane Coogan. And behind Coogan, that view back to Matthew Weeks. This is the closest battle now on the racetrack still between Coogan and Frankenfield. Weeks starting to show up a little bit more in the picture as they lap around here. But still seemingly lacking the ultimate pace that they've shown at least. So on these past couple of laps, Weeks a little bit faster than Frankenfield. Coogan a reasonable amount faster than Frankenfield, and showing here, looks to the outside. That's going to be, again, tough to make the move. But it's clear that Shane Coogan is not done with the 15 car. Good defensive driving from Chad Frankenfield, taking away that inside line. He knows how powerful that's been. And Frankenfield onto pit road, makes that decision to pit early, and is that enough to make it to the end of this race? I'm not too sure it is. So could we be seeing at least 2 more stops for everybody, 1 more stop for Frankenfield after this one, or potentially have these others been able to save just that little bit more and make it to the end of this race? And, ooh, something happened to Frankenfield. Oh, excuse me. Caught myself off guard there, folks. But, yeah, Frankenfield, of course, coming off pit road here now. Stays, of course, on the lead lap. But only just, really. And, well, folks, I just got the reminder, so I'll make that reminder to you as well. If you haven't set your fantasy football lineups for this week, you should do that. I certainly will be doing that during the break between races, as we're now 24 laps to go. Sage Karam, 2.5 seconds up ahead of Shane Coogan, ahead of Matthew Weeks, and now that becomes the closest battle on the racetrack, but it's about half a second between these two. It's kind of riding right now, setting yourself up for what could be the last pit stop of the race. While we wait for the rest of the drivers to hit pit road, we'll take this great opportunity to talk to you folks about our premier sponsors here at the Elite Racing Network. And we're going to start it off with Blue Egg Marketing. Blue Egg Marketing is the marketing department for small businesses. So if you're a small business owner, then Blue Egg Marketing is your absolute biggest fan. Whatever your constraints are, they help catalyze creativity, and Blue Egg Marketing will help your business punch above its weight class. Also want to shout out TA Services. For over 36 years, TA Services has been a trusted domestic and international full-service third-party logistics provider offering freight brokerage, managed transportation, warehousing and fulfillment, and cross-border logistics services to shippers around the globe. TA Services moves what matters to you. Finally, want to shout out BreezyCam. It's a venture-backed tech company based out of Toronto and Boston, and they're on a mission to reimagine the group photo experience. Gone are the days of carrying around a tripod or selfie stick. They help their customers and users tell better stories around meaningful moments. They let anybody tap into nearby cameras to capture group memories at iconic locations as if users were controlling their own native camera app, except now from a perfectly positioned vantage point. Today you can find Breezy at well-known sports venues and cultural landmarks across 4 different continents. Want to thank, of course, our premier sponsors here at the Elite Racing Leagues. They've been fantastic in their support of all of the racing series that we run over the course of the year and over the course of this 2022 B season. And while it's not a Mega Driver 86 INDYCAR Series event, it's a build-up to a Mega Driver 86 INDYCAR Series event. So, of course, want to shout out Mega Driver 86. At Mega Driver 86 on Twitter provides top-notch NASCAR content from past to present. They also provide content from IndyCar all the way to supercars. If you're a racing fan, make sure you're giving him a follow. That's at Mega Driver 86. As things run right now, Shane Coogan stretching his gap on Matthew Weeks, and looks to be enough fuel in these cars to pretty easily make it to the end of this race as Mark Murphy comes down pit road. Frankenfield then with the early stop, maybe trying to get an undercut on everybody, so he came right at the start of that window. I like that strategy call, especially if you know you're not going to go a lap down here to the leaders. But it's close with Frankenfield. Sage Karam's in the view. I don't think he's going to get by, though. And he's probably out of the risk there, but could have those fresher tires, a little bit more pace to start it off. It can give you track position to start the run. It'll hurt you maybe a little bit towards the end, but we've seen track position can be pretty important around here. So that could be the play there from Chad Frankenfield. Pit early, utilize those fresh tires early, as there you see him flying past Mark Murphy, who's just getting back up to speed. A little bit of a twitch there. So he gets back up to speed. Matthew Weeks now onto pit road. Let's see where Weeks comes out on the racetrack. We take a look at our track map. Here we go, the number 19 car exiting pit road. Frankenfield full speed. You're going to see him just appear at the top of your screen there. So it looks like he's going to come out ahead. The question is, of course, how far ahead? Weeks going to use all of that escape road as he gets up to speed. Frankenfield is gone and passed. But if Weeks can stay in the draft of that 15 car, to get back up there pretty quick, he could be okay here, and he might have just saved himself, though he's still a little bit slower. Now I think finally he's fully up to pace, and the advantage to Frankenfield between Weeks and himself is 3/4 of a second. So, Sage Karam, Shane Coogan, Brandon Burns, and Bill Colley II, the last 4 cars yet to pit, make their final stops. So we watch Sage Karam ahead currently of Mark Murphy. So Murphy actually does fall down a lap, so a caution right now would be detrimental to the driver of the number 69 car. He would get that wave around as Sage Karam would have to pit, but not really the spot you want to be in if you're Murphy. In a perfect world, you want to be back on that lead lap and really just get track position on them, but we'll see if he can do that as Sage Karam stays out for another lap. Murphy, though, looking quite a bit quicker. Last time around, 42.67 to Sage Karam's 43.27. So, yeah, just about 0.6 of a second faster than Karam, and here you can see the pace difference. Murphy about to unlap himself. Karam could be going for the short fill strategy here, so kind of the opposite end of the spectrum to Chad. So basically barely fill up the tank on pit road. Get yourself to the end of this race and try to utilize the extra speed in the car for that. Another extremely viable strategy there to just get that splash and go on and off of pit road. And here he comes, Sage Karam. Race leader onto pit road. Got to get that car slowed down. He slams on the brakes, locks them up. I think he got slowed down just in time. Shane Coogan stays on the racetrack. Brandon Burns heading through turn 3 right now. And he's going to stay out as well. Bill Colley coming off turn 4 will also stay out. So Sage Karam on pit road, and there's that track map on the right-hand side of your screen, folks. He's rolling off pit road, and he's already got a huge lead over the 19 and the 15. Actually, speaking of the 19 and the 15, Matthew Weeks is past Chad Frankenfield. And did something happen here between these two drivers? Let's head back here and take a look at how Matthew Weeks got past Chad Frankenfield. Looks like just a straight-up pass around the outside for Weeks. And he gets the job done there, but that squabbling between them means that they currently sit 3.8 seconds behind Sage Karam. Ahead of Mark Murphy, but behind Karam by some good margin. Shane Coogan then finally on and off of pit road. He'll be a closer blend here as there goes Karam flying on by. Where does he fall with the 19 and the 15? Frankenfield right now looks like he's struggling for pace. Oh, he may have taken fuel only, as he had a relatively quick pit stop. So could be right now suffering the effect of those worn tires. 43.29 seems to be, yeah, kind of where you'd be on those worn tires. As here we go, Coogan and Weeks merge out together, and Frankenfield at this point hanging on with 13 to go, trying to make it to the end of this one. So here we go, Coogan and Weeks. That battle gap had gone up to about 1 second before they came on and off of pit road. Now falls down to about half a second between Coogan and Weeks. Coogan with the tire advantage and the track position advantage should be able to pull back away. But we'll see what Matthew Weeks can do. Meanwhile, Frankenfield under attack from Mark Murphy. Murphy trying to find his way back inside the top 5 after getting swamped on that one lap. Fell back to P6, worked his way back up. Is still in P6 as Colley's yet to pit. Works his way back to effectively P5 and now trying to get back inside the top 4. So a little ways ahead, though, to get to Matthew Weeks. So top 4 maybe the highest that Murphy can get, but it looks like it's achievable here. Frankenfield really struggling with those tires right now through turn 2. And you can just see the run that Murphy's able to get off the corner. Immediately dives to the inside, and there's not much defending you can do if you're Chad Frankenfield there. So Colley falls behind the race leader. Still in P2, but yet to make his final stop of the night with 11 to go. Running strong, though, right now. Colley would finish P7 if he were to come down pit road. Would put him behind Brandon Burns. But still with an impressive result there after starting P14. Excuse me, starting P13. As here we go, Colley falls behind Shane Coogan. So Coogan, as things stand, 3.9 seconds behind Sage Karam. And about 0.6 of a second now ahead of Matthew Weeks. So that gap's starting to grow. We're in the final 10 laps of this Freedom 150. Karam out front, pretty much uncontested. Had a mishap on pit road during the caution. Dropped him back to the 4th position, and well, he didn't let that last for long. Within 1 lap, he was back up to 3rd. Within another lap, he made it all the way to the front with an incredible 3-wide move. And since then, he hasn't really looked back. Colley finally hits pit road, stops on his marks, gonna get that car serviced. And now that means that everybody should be good to make it to the end of this one. Chad Frankenfield possibly in the most precarious position of any of the drivers. Sits 24 seconds ahead of Brandon Burns, so it's kind of a tricky situation there for Chad where it's kind of just hang on here. Because if you pit, you're going to drop that spot to Burns. And won't be enough laps really to make that up. You need to catch up almost 20 seconds in the final 10 laps of this race. And I think even fresh tires wouldn't be able to do that for Chad Frankenfield on Brandon Burns. So at this point, it's kind of ride. 20-second gap to the car behind. 2 seconds to the car in front. Not much you can do if you're Frankenfield. And a potentially once hopeful result. Not quite what he was hoping for, but many other opportunities for him. Put in a great showing, though. Gave us some of the best action of this race that we saw in a number of his defensive and offensive moves. We move up to Mark Murphy, another one of the drivers who may be wishing that he got a little bit more out of tonight. Just got a little bit unlucky with the way that lap shaped up, I think. Just kind of got, ganged up on by the rest of the cars in that top group. And we saw how tough it was to really regain track position. So once he got trapped behind A.J. Hobson for a few laps, it was tough to really regain that position. But again, Mark Murphy, another one of those guys to keep an eye out for. He's going to be quick tomorrow. He's going to be quick later tonight as well. And Matthew Weeks What a debut in these cars if he's able to pull off this result. P3 as things stand right now. And just consistently solid, really, throughout this race. He was competitive with Frankenfield, competitive with Murphy, even competitive with Coogan for a little while before that 9 car started to pull out. And then kind of the top two, I was going to say in a league of their own almost, but 2 separate leagues there, really. I mean, Coogan, 4 seconds up on Matthew Weeks. He's been spectacular, and he would be the best driver in this field if it just wasn't for Sage Karam, man. Sage Karam, what a result he's putting together here as we now tick over 5 laps to go in this Freedom 150. And Sage Karam, who starts 25th tomorrow night in the Indianapolis 500, could be putting himself in a great position to pick up those $100 extra to go on top of his IndyCar paycheck. It's great to see here, though, of course, these real IndyCar drivers sitting down on the sims, taking part in these events. They genuinely enjoy them, having talked to a number of them in the past. I think a number of them really enjoyed them, especially during the lockdown. I think that's when this became such a big deal. And those who stuck around have continued to take part in this event, in a number of events around around iRacing. And it's been great to see Sage Karam, one of those guys who has been around the elite racing leagues for quite some time now, and always performs when he does race with us. So always a pleasure to have him, and he tries to get, I think, everybody else to up their games, which is great to see. We see the same thing in the Cup Series with RC Intersan and the season he's having. He's often run part-time, but even in that part-time schedule, he's been extraordinarily competitive. He ran full-time this season, and he's in the championship for there. So keep an eye out. Wednesday night's Cup Series. That's going to be an exciting championship finale coming up in just 2 weeks' time to finish off the year. In fact, all of the series will be finishing up in 1 to 2 weeks. IndyCar season finale is going to be taking place just next Friday. Of course, we've got double points tomorrow night, so a lot can change in the championship picture. But with Alex Van de Sant winning the most recent race at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, that keeps him right now in the championship hunt just barely. 80 points, though, adrift of Adriano Pinheiro. Pinheiro sits 50 points ahead of second-place Joshua Chin, who the two of them have swapped victories all season long. 7 victories of the 8 races completed between those two drivers. Van de Sant, the only other driver to see victory lane. I suspect we may see that statistic change tomorrow night, though. Can never quite predict who will walk away with that Indy 500 victory, of course. But with the expanded field, more opportunities for more drivers, and a certain level of uncertainty, you can't always count on those guys who are regulars to put in that same result. Of course, we could still see a race where one of those two is extraordinarily dominant. Speaking of dominant, it's 1 lap to go for Sage Karam in this Freedom 150. 59 laps completed, running lap 60 right now, 4.3 seconds ahead of the next closest car. Past the halfway point, it really wasn't in question for Sage Karam. In fact, before the halfway point, really, it wasn't really in question. Once we got back to green flag racing, quickly made his way back up to the front and has looked to see just clean air all night long from that point forward. So he's going to just lap here, AJ Hobson. And here we go. Coming across the yard of bricks, the first race of the night is complete. It's Sage Karam victorious in the Freedom 150s. Shane Coogan's going to come across P2, and Matthew Weeks, as he comes out of turn number 4, going to bring home a podium finish. It was Brian Burns who finished 1 lap down to Karam. Mark Murphy will bring home P4, and Chad Frankenfield brings home a top 5 finish in that hurt number 15 car, of course, with the old tires on it. Sage Karam, though, sets himself up very well to pick up those $100 in tomorrow night's event. Sage Karam going to take it on to the front straightaway to burn it down. As we await the final race results. Oh, and there they disappeared, of course, for just a second, of course. We'll get those displayed for you folks in just a moment. Stops just shy of the Yard of Bricks, and in fact decides to roll off the racetrack. So there it is. 14 drivers took part. Just 5 finished on the lead lap. Sage Karam, Shane Coogan, Matthew Weeks, Mark Murphy, and Chad Frankenfield, your top 5, all on the lead lap. Brandon Burns, 1 lap down, as well as Bill Colley. 3 laps down, Joshua Osborne. And then the non-finishers, A.J. Hobson, Michael Hossack, Peter Dempsey, Kevin Burrell, Nick DeGroot, and Tate Lytle. So congratulations to Sage. We'll take a look. No word quite yet if the plan is to get drivers up into the booth with us. We'll take a look there, but it's 7:30 right now. And well, we may not hear from Sage Karam just yet. And in fact, if we do end up, we may return back to live pictures. But it is currently 7:30 p.m., 7:28 p.m. Eastern Time. The next race, the Freedom 50, will kick off in just about half an hour. Those will be the USF 2000s at the Lucas Oil Raceway. So with that, we're going to step away here. Live stream is going to stay live, but we're just going to move over, swap over to that new lobby, get to the new racetrack, and get things rolling once again, probably around 7:55 p.m. Eastern. So step away for 20 to 25 minutes, grab some food, grab some dinner, and then come back and join us for the next event here in tonight's Carb Night, presented by Warriors for Peace. I've been Rish Khosla, and I will see you folks in just a moment's time. All right, folks, welcome back to the second race of the night. It's the Freedom 50 here at Lucas Oil Raceway. Cars are taken to the track just now to get into qualifying mode. Show you guys around this racetrack here. Freedom 50 USF 2000s. It's a 2/3 of a mile racetrack. A few miles away from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, where we were just about half an hour ago. Sage Karam victorious there in the Freedom 150. For those of you folks just tuning in now, my name is Khosla, bringing you guys all the action here on tonight's Carb Day events. Freedom 150 concluded. We'll now have the Freedom 50, the Freedom 75, and the Carb Night Classic all taking place right here at Lucas Oil Raceway. So get familiar with this racetrack, get comfortable here, because we still have 3 more races to go tonight. Little bit of a different field here as cars are in qualifying mode, and naturally, once again, in qualifying, our timing and scoring decides it doesn't like working. So Jeffrey Stanton right now is the man on pole, new driver from this night. Did not take part in the Freedom 150. Josh Batista as well, another driver who did not take part in the 150, starting in, or at least qualified currently in the second position. Scott Crump, there you see on your screen, finishes his run to qualify in third. Ethan Stanley, Sage Karam, and Mark Murphy make your top 6 right now on the racetrack. 12 cars will take the green flag. We're just waiting for those other 6 to join qualifying here. Those other 6 are Bill Colley II, transferring over from the Freedom 150, Chad Frankenfield, Chris Wilhite, this is his first event of the night, Joshua Osborne, Presley Sora, his first event of the night, and then Brandon Burns, who again raced in the Freedom 150. So now a little bit of a lull in the action as second group of cars should be heading out on the racetrack in just a moment. While we wait for them, we'll take this opportunity to talk about our premier sponsors here at the Elite Racing Network, starting with TA Services. For over 36 years, TA Services has been a trusted domestic and international full-service third-party logistics provider, offering freight brokerage, managed transportation, warehousing and fulfillment, and cross-border logistics services to shippers around the globe. Also want to thank BreezyCam. It's a venture-backed tech company based in Toronto and Boston. They're on a mission to reimagine the group photo experience. Gone are the days of carrying around a tripod or selfie stick. BreezyCam helps their customers and users tell better stories around meaningful moments. Finally, want to thank Blue Egg Marketing. If you're a small business owner, then Blue Egg Marketing is your absolute biggest fan. They'll help your business punch above its weight class. Shout out to our premier sponsors here at the Elite Racing Leagues, supporting all our series throughout this 2022B season. That means the Cup Series that we have on Wednesday nights, the INDYCAR Series that runs on Friday nights, the Truck Series and F1 Series that run on Sunday nights, and the Xfinity Series that runs on Monday nights. Of course, speaking of that Friday night INDYCAR Series, the Indianapolis 500, the 10th running of the Elite Indy 500, presented by Richmar Flores, takes place tomorrow night at 7:30 p.m. So make sure you guys are subscribed to the Elite Racing Network here on YouTube and ready to watch that event, because it's going to be spectacular, and we're going to potentially crown a new champion, or we're going to crown another repeat winner. Robert Maleska, the defending race winner, will start the race from the pole position, so he's in the best possible position to repeat. Chad Frankenfield out on the racetrack right now, puts his car in the 3rd position. Presley Sora now out on the racetrack. Puts a 20.71 for his first lap. Second lap should be more representative. Moves him up to 4th. And that leaves just 3 cars left to qualify. Colley, Osborne, and Burns, all of whom look like they will not be qualifying, and so we will then transfer over to the race. And kick off the second race in this Warriors for Peace Carb Day. So let's walk you folks through what that starting grid looks like. And fortunately for me, it's just one screen, just 12 cars making the start here tonight. That's Jeffrey Stanton and Josh Batista on pole. are on the front row. Excuse me, Chad Frankenfield, Presley Sora making up row 2. Then you've got Scott Crump, Ethan Stanley. Your Freedom 150 winner, Sage Karam, lines up alongside Chris Wilhite. Mark Murphy, your Freedom 150 pole sitter, lines up alongside Joshua Osborne. And then Bill Colley, the second, and Brandon Burns did not put in lap times along with Joshua Osborne. They will start on that 6th row. So drivers will not be allowed to change tires in this event. So under caution, if we do see a caution wave, they will not be allowed to use a fresh set of tires. So that evens out the playing field a little bit. Waiting for just 2 more cars to grid. Should hopefully be getting rolling here in just a moment. Waiting on Sage Karam to get into his car. And, well, Karam does not grid up in time, and so he will be starting this race from pit road. So big disadvantage there for the Freedom 150 winner. Now, for this event, as well as the other events throughout the night, this will not be going to that average finish prize pool. So that comes out of the Freedom 150. So average finisher in the Freedom 150, or excuse me, highest average finisher between, or excuse me, driver with the highest average finish between the Freedom 150 and the Indy 500 tomorrow night will walk away with $100 extra in terms of prize money. Of course, in terms of each individual event, there is still incentive $10 prize to the winner of each of the upcoming events here tonight. 2 laps here under the pace car. Jeffrey Stanton will lead the field to the green flag. Chris Wilhite sitting on pit road. As a pace car peels off. Sage Karam may not take the start of this one. Same with Brandon Burns. Something interesting going on there. Chris Wilhite, not sure if he'll make the start either, but one way or the other, we've got 9 cars gridded up here. Could be a small field. Stanton takes the green flag, and we're underway racing here at Lucas Oil Raceway for 50 laps here at this 2/3 of a mile racetrack. Chad Frankenfield working that inside lane, and we've already got them 3 wide here as, here we go, Batista defending on the outside. It's Presley Sora who's dived to the inside, trying to get his way past Jeffrey Stanton. He dives and picks up 2 spots, though, in the span of 1 corner. Frankenfield getting past Batista. Batista moving backwards early. Stanton, though, continues to lead after lap number 1. Ooh, Frankenfield, Batista, neither giving each other much room at all, and Batista's going to stay up on the racetrack. That's going to hurt his run off. He's going to dive, look low, try to get past Chad Frankenfield. Could be seeing a little bit more overtaking here tonight in this particular race here, as it's just a smaller track. Guys are closer together. Chris Wilhite did take the start. He's a little ways behind the main pack, but Sage Karam and Brandon Burns did not. So up front, Presley Sora trying that inside lane on Jeffrey Stanton. Not quite able to get the pass complete just yet. But he still has that preferred line, that theoretically preferred line, though, around here at IRP. Sometimes I've found that drivers who run all the way up on that high lane could find a better pace advantage, as we're seeing here. Stanton continues to do so. Even when he had an opportunity to clear down to the bottom of the racetrack, he's happy running all the way up at the wall. He's going to force Sora to really get on the brakes and try to drive that car through on the middle and bottom lanes of this racetrack. But Sora is having not too many problems doing that, as he's still side by side here with Jeffrey Stanton for the lead. And this is giving Chad Frankenfield an opportunity to look at both of them, try and find a chance by. You see that Sora strong mid-corner and entering the corner. He gets a nose ahead, but the run that Stanton can get off the corner is what's keeping him in front right now. We're going to try and get timing and scoring fixed there. It looks like we got that just resolved. Sorry about that, folks. And now we should be able to get accurate readings there as you can watch positions change, or maybe not, as they continue to have some problems. First caution of the night is out on the racetrack. Who is that for? Looks like Scott Crump. We're going to head to the Whiskey Cast replay. Take a look and see what we can find with the 90 car. Scott Crump, this is his first event of the night. And here we go. Scott Crump then battling on the racetrack with Mark Murphy. And looks like just gets loose high up on the racetrack. Don't think that was netcode. Didn't really see much smoke. So just got up high, a little bit too much power entering the corner, and got loose. That was enough to bring out our first caution of the night. Try and get some of these issues fixed here, folks. Well, quick caution here. About to be over. We're going to see what we can do about that tower, folks. It's a little unfortunate there that we're having these technical issues. Don't believe we were having them during the Freedom 150 either. But we're going to try and get you back to the green. As here we go, Jeffrey Stanton takes the green and leads this field back on lap 11. So it's Stanton, Sora, Frankenfield, Stanley, Batista. You guys can see that much. Then it's Mark Murphy, Joshua Osborne, Scott Crump, Bill Colley, Chris Wilhite, all racing on the track right now. Wilhite, though, actually is hit pit road and may be done for the night. Sage Kerr and Brandon Burns never made the start of this one and are both out. So you can see them fan out through turns 1 and 2. Trying different lines there. You've got Stanton all the way on that extreme high side. Sora trying the middle. Frankenfield trying both. And Stanton under attack by Sora. And we've seen this before, haven't we, folks? Presley Sora then trying to get by on that inside lane. Stanton holding strong on the outside. He's loving that top lane, and Frankenfield now starting to stay with Stanton up top. Sora still trying to find a way past on the bottom, but he may now fall behind Chad Frankenfield. With all this, this is also bringing Ethan Stanley into the picture as Frankenfield and Sora run side by side now down the back straightaway. Sora gets a nose ahead. Clear of Frankenfield, not quite. And there's that run that you get by running that high line off the corner. It's a huge advantage on the straightaways, but because the straightaways are so short over here, it doesn't stay for long. And there you go, Sora gets back in front of Frankenfield, able to stay there. and run his own line again. But yeah, man, oh man, it's going to be tough to get past Stanton. That top lane seems very difficult to beat. So single file now in front. About 1 second separates our top 5. It's further about half a second, 0.6 of a second back to Mark Murphy in 6th. And this is the battle that we see on our screen then. Jeffrey Stanton, Presley Sora, Chad Frankenfield, Ethan Stanley, Josh Batista. And all of them settling into a bit of a rhythm. Presley Sora, though, sets the fastest lap of the race so far, as he's trying to work back to the gearbox of Stanton. Not quite able to get there just yet. Seems to be stagnating around 0.3 of a second. Here we go, Frankenfield. Looking ahead at the battle between Sora and Stanton. Sora has done a good job to close that gap to Stanton for the lead, and back to the inside. He's going to try this again on his own. Presley Sora may have the fastest car on the racetrack, but Jeffrey Stanton is putting up a stout defensive effort here. Sora's really going to have to throw that car in and hope that it sticks, and it's just not quite there yet. He needs to prevent that run off the corner that Stanton's been getting, but I don't know how you do that when you're the one who's being pinched around on the racetrack. Sora, though, looking so competitive with Jeffrey Stanton, and so competitive lap time-wise. We'll see, of course, if he can get by. He's looking as good as he ever has, but there you once again see just how well Stanton's able to get off the corner. Frankenfield in the picture as well. Wonder if he'll get involved here, as again, there you see just Sora trying to get through, and we're already past the halfway point in this race, how quickly it's gone by. Of course, wonder what that's doing to Sora's tires. As of course, you only have this one set to make it to the end, so if there is a restart, will he still be okay? Because there may be just generally more stress that he's having to put into those, braking harder to make the lower line of this racetrack, and then accelerating harder off the corner. Meanwhile, Stanton able to just carry more speed through the corner and maintain that speed, but all while taking that longer route around the racetrack. Feels like that should be the preferred line in terms of tire longevity, but Sora just seems so strong pace-wise. He just needs that little bit of a break there for Stanton to not give him much room, and all of a sudden Chad Frankenfield here to pounce on any mistake that Sora may make. Showing the difficulty level of overtaking here with this package at this racetrack. As here we go, Frankenfield is going to try what Sora did on Presley Sora himself and see if he can get by. And there you see Sora starting to reap the benefits of that same attack. The issue, though, for Presley is that he may get bottled up behind Stanton if he stays on that lane, which may give Frankenfield an option, but that time he doesn't, and now he's going to head back to the bottom of the racetrack, try and drive it in deeper, just not quite able to get up to the top of the racetrack, and he'll slot back in behind the 46 for now. Ethan Stanley now in the picture, as well as, oh, Frankenfield turns Presley Sora, and around he goes, cautions out with 17 to go. Man, oh man, possibly the fastest car on track. Out after contact with the third place driver. Now second place. Ooh. And Ethan Stanley gets involved in that one too. We'll try and get a better angle. We didn't quite see the contact there between the two drivers. I want to see if we can spot any. Oh, that's so difficult to say. I think if we get an onboard with Frankenfield, that may give us our best potential view there. And here we go with Frankenfield. That, to me, looks like contact from the 15 car. That's going to send Presley Sora around. I don't quite know if there are any race officials in this one that'll be looking over that one. It is, of course, more of a fun event here tonight. No championship implications at all in the series. But certainly must imagine that Sora may be a little bit disappointed. Wonder what the damage looks like on that 98 car. Can he get back up towards the front? But with 15 to go, it's going to be a tough ask to win this race. See if we can go back and get maybe an overhead view of this, folks. I want to see if there was contact. I think this blimp view may give us a great insight as to this incident. From there, that looks like contact on just that right front end plate to Presley Sora's left rear tire. And then, of course, you see there Ethan Stanley. Ethan Stanley, actually, that's some net code there. It doesn't look like he made physical contact. But on our end here, and there's always going to be some level of error there. But when you're racing somebody else that closely on the racetrack, it's hard to say. But it does look like contact there between the 15 and the 98. But, of course, it's more of a fun event. No implications there for the drivers. That obviously doesn't give anybody an excuse to race unfairly, but these drivers have raced fairly tonight and continue to do so. So back to the action. Presley Sora will restart 7th. He'll try to work his way back forward. Chad Frankenfield starts in the 2nd position. He's been just as quick as Stanton and Sora, and he could have an opportunity here to grab the lead. Sora, though, we saw struggled with that inside lane to get by. On that inside lane. Could Frankenfield have better luck? Could Josh Batista get back in this after he lost a couple of positions on the initial start? He was the 2nd place man in qualifying, so we know he has that pace as well. It's also, how well have you protected your tires up to this point? Well, we're going to find out here. 12 laps to go. Stanton, Frankenfield, Batista, Murphy, Crump. Top 5, take the green flag. Frankenfield right up on the gearbox of Stanton, and I am pretty sure Stanton's going to force him here to head to the inside. Frankenfield working that inside lane. He's getting a little bit lower, I think, than Sora was, which could give him an advantage. Obviously, that means you got to slow down a little bit more in the corner, but it could just shorten that distance. That time by kind of in the middle of the racetrack here, side by side again off turn number 4. But it's just Stanton has stayed strong on that top lane. He has not deviated from that outside wall, and that's not given anybody an opportunity to get past him here tonight. So can Frankenfield make it past? Meanwhile, Mark Murphy ahead of Josh Batista, showing that you can make an overtake here. Scott Crump, Bill Colley, Presley Sora has parked his car. He's done for the night. And the battle continues on between Frankenfield and Stanton. Let's go on board with Frankenfield. There you can barely even see Stanton to the outside, and all of a sudden, there he appears with that huge run. Pace difference between the two off the corner. Pretty significant. Let's take a look and see what that looks like. It's about 5 miles an hour or so for a brief moment before they kind of rebalance. So again, there you see Frankenfield dives it in deep. And then all of a sudden, Stanton just goes driving on by around the outside. But Frankenfield maybe driving it just a little bit deeper than we saw Sora. And getting that nose out in front. I mean, that's a close finish right there if that is how it ends. If you can be in contention, you don't have to lead heading into turn number 1 on lap 51. You just have to be ahead by the time they cross the start-finish line, and that could be the strategy here that Chad Frankenfield's thinking of, is let's just sit here, try to get that run, dive it in deep in turn 3 and 4, and hope that coming out of 4 that whatever advantage you gain by taking the short route around the racetrack is going to keep you in front. He's not going to clear that time by. It looked like they almost came very close together. That time, though, Stanton clearing Frankenfield. That's not what the 15 needs. He needs to stay generally in touch here with Stanton. So that coming off the corner, he's almost half a car length in front before it evens out by the start-finish line. It's the white flag. This race has gone by extraordinarily quickly. And it's been between Stanton, Frankenfield, and Sora. Sora's out of it. Frankenfield has one more chance to take it away. He's going to go all the way to the bottom of the racetrack, but it's not going to be enough. It's going to be Jeffrey Stanton from pole to victory lane here at Lucas Oil Raceway in the Freedom 50. Great drive by him. Mark Murphy drives his way up into the 3rd position, up 6 spots from his starting spot. Josh Batista loses a couple from his front row starting position, but finishes 4th. Scott Crump finishes in the top 5. Jeffrey Stanton then going to burn it down there on the start-finish line, or maybe not. We'll see what he decides there. Didn't see any donuts from Sage Karam. He parked it at the bricks pretty respectfully, and parked his car after that. But here at IRP, I feel like you can have a little bit more fun with your celebrations. But Stanton seems pretty happy with just sitting there and celebrating. So let's take a look at the final results of tonight's race. As we see there, Freedom 50, Jeffrey Stanton, Chad Frankenfield, Mark Murphy. There you see the drivers in blue are regulars in the Elite Mega Driver 86 INDYCAR Series. So Frankenfield and Murphy both having good showings here tonight. Batista and Crump rounding out that top 5. Colley and Osborne, the last cars finishing on the lead lap. And then our DNFs, Presley Sora, Ethan Stanley, Chris Wilhite. And our DNSs, Sage Karam and Brandon Birds, never saw the green flag. Well, that's been another exciting event there, as the drivers will all hop out of their USF 2000s, hop into their Indy Pro 2000s, and get some practicing underway before qualifying begins for the next race here tonight, the Freedom 75. So with that, I will step away as well for about 15 minutes and be back with you folks then for race number 3 of this Carb Day special, brought to you by Warriors for Peace. Alrighty, folks, welcome back to the third race of tonight's Carb Day, brought to you by Warriors for Peace. And welcome to the Freedom 75. So 3 different Freedom races, all of them in different open wheelers. We went from the 2009 Dallara INDYCAR to the USF 2000, now the Indy Pro 2000, still at Lucas Oil Raceway. 75 laps this time by, same racetrack. Little bit of a different grid, though. As we tick over into our race session, let's walk you folks through the top 10 starting drivers and the only 10 starting drivers of tonight's event. Chad Frankenfield is going to be your pole sitter. Came just short of victory when it came to the Freedom 50, hoping to go one better in this one. Presley Sora lines up alongside him. Sora and Frankenfield came together in the 50. So make sure you keep an eye out for how those two race each other, since that's very fresh. Jeff Stanton, the winner of the Freedom 50, starts in P3. I think those 3 are going to be the ones to watch out for without a doubt. Ethan Stanley lines up in 4th with Mark Murphy in 5th. Scott Crump rounding out that 3rd row. Then Chris Wilhite, Josh Batista round out that 4th row, and Joshua Osborne and Bill Colley both did not set a lap time in qualifying, but they'll be starting 9th and 10th as the field shrinks just a little bit once again. 10 cars will take the field. We'll see if, of course, all 10 cars end up making the green flag. So cars a little bit quicker than they were just half an hour ago. Should mean that 75 laps goes by a little bit quicker as well. Won't be quite as short as the 50-lap event that we had for the Freedom 50. Should still be a relatively quick event. And then, of course, after this, we'll ditch the open wheels, head to sprint cars, and compete in the Carb Night Classic 100-lap event to finish off the night here at Lucas Oil Raceway. Two pace laps then, as the drivers get their tires warmed up. Curious to see how the racing works with these cars, and if they're able to run side by side. We saw, of course, the difficulty that Sora and Frankenfield had in getting past Jeff Stanton in the USF 2000s. This time by a little bit more horsepower behind them, maybe gives them a little bit better of a drive off the corner for those trying to, again, use that lower lane on the racetrack. Of course, maybe a little bit more downforce as well, which could mean that carrying that speed up on the top of the racetrack also kind of gains a little bit of an advantage there. So could even out there. We'll find out here as we get ready to hit the green flag. Frankenfield, the control car now, as the pace car is off onto pit road, getting ready for 75 laps at Lucas Oil Raceway. Frankenfield goes early, catches Sora off guard, and we're underway here for the Freedom 75. Frankenfield clear up front, followed by Sora, then Stanton. No major changes up front. But here we go. Stanton under attack from Ethan Stanley. Stanley looking to the outside, trying to get by. He's got that, what we think is the preferred line here. And there you see as he's able to clear our Freedom 50 race winner. Meanwhile, Presley Sora, the man who I think was the fastest driver in the Freedom 50, probably had the most pace in the car, just wasn't able to get that move complete on Jeff Stanton. Incredible defensive driving by Stanton, but here we go. You've got Stanley, though, immediately looking to the inside, trying what Sora tried so many times in the USF 2000s, and he's running into a similar fate there, at least that time by. So Presley Sora hanging on strong on the outside, and actually comes down to pinch the 91. That's going to take away a lot of his pace advantage. But just not quite able to clear Ethan Stanley. Great start by Stanley, though, for sure. as he's moved up from the 4th position, trying to get into 2nd. Chad Frankenfield, of course, though, is loving all of this, as he's now starting to stretch his lead out in front of this squabble for 2nd. Reports that car getting a little bit light underneath the drivers in turn 2, something to look out for. Means the rear end maybe giving up just a little bit on them, so you got to be just very careful getting back on power in these cars. And here we go, everybody nice and close together after 5 laps complete already. Again, laps are going to go by pretty quickly around this racetrack here. So Frankenfield leads, then Sora, then Stanley. And Stanley now under pressure from Jeff Stanton, who's trying to get his 3rd position back from the man who took it away from him just a few laps ago. So Stanley holding on right now. Sora right now falling more into the grasp of Stanley than he is pushing forward to Frankenfield. Frankenfield setting fast lap after fast lap as he tries to extend his gap up front, now up to 0.6 of a second, with that last lap about 0.02 of a second faster than Presley Sora. So fastest car on the racetrack for another consecutive lap, that time 0.03 of a second. We're talking tiny portions of a second here, but around this racetrack, Chad Frankenfield doing whatever he can to pull away, and he's doing everything right now perfectly. Up front with that clean air. Sora trying to do everything he can to just hang on there. Frankenfield, though, just continues to take time and time off, lap after lap, and that time by a whopping 0.07 of a second between the two drivers. So currently advantage Frankenfield, as all the drivers seem to be kind of working their way towards the middle of the racetrack. Not as many working that high lane as we saw in the USF 2000s. So again, a little bit more power, ability to drive through the corner rather than relying on that momentum to carry you around the top lane. Interesting to see there. I wonder if we'll see anybody kind of work their way towards the top of the racetrack as the night goes on. In terms of close battles on track, we've got Stanton here trying still to get past Ethan Stanley. Then a little bit further back's Mark Murphy as he defends from Scott Crump. Presley Sora, though, issue for the driver, the number 98. I think he's back on the racetrack. He's having network issues. Yeah, major blinking issues there for Presley Sora in second. He rejoins back in second. And looks like it's all settled out right now. That lost him a little bit of time there. 0.2 of a second to Frankenfield. So Stanton now with an opportunity to try and get past. He's already gotten past Ethan Stanley and everybody back in the order that they qualified in after 14 laps. Stanton trying to go one better, though, trying to get past seemingly struggling right now 98 car of Sora. Last time by about 0.5 of a second faster for Stanton. Again, we're talking small margins, but around this short track here, short lap time, 0.5 of a second can be pretty significant in terms of just overall pace advantage. The question, of course, though, is can you really make these same overtakes with this car? Well, we saw, again, the struggle with the USF 2000s. Let's take a look here. Stanton going to pick that outside lane. Sora still has an opportunity to take that away from him. I do think if you want to make an overtake, that outside lane's almost preferred. And Stanton keeping that car there, one lane off the top wall. So 1 or 2 lanes off kind of where he was in the USF 2000. But still running just that little bit higher than Sora, trying to get the runs off the corner. That'll give him maybe just that little bit of a chance to disrupt Presley Sora entering either turn 3 or turn 1. Though both of them have since closed up a little bit on Chad Frankenfield in the past few laps. Frankenfield dropping off just a little bit. Stanton, though, by a good margin, the fastest guy on the racetrack that last lap. And then Presley Sora responds, both of them, though, faster than Chad Frankenfield. In the gearbox of Frankenfield, here's what it looks like. There you see the 2 squabbling cars behind him, Presley Sora, and now you see Jeff Stanton trying to find a way by. working that higher lane. 2 downshifts mid-corner for Sora. And here's the run from Stanton. He's got it heading into turn number 1. He's got the inside lane. We'll see if that works for him this time by. But Sora right now seems to be just struggling with the rear end of that car, seems to be struggling with drive off the corner, though he didn't have too many issues with it that time by staying clear of Stanton. Already 20 laps complete here in the Freedom 75. As on screen, you're watching Presley Sora chased by Jeffrey Stanton, the two of them chasing down Chad Frankenfield, and once again, they're continuing to close. You can see physically that gap is smaller, and even on timing and scoring, now down to just half a second to Chad Frankenfield in the lead. So did Frankenfield potentially push too early? Is there just too much heat in those tires right now with all those purple lap times he was setting? Is that going to wear out for him and slow him down as this race progresses? I didn't get any confirmation, but I do believe for this 75-lapper as well, no tire changes allowed. So whatever you've got in your cars, you've got to make that last for the entirety of this event. So another thing to keep in mind, did Frankenfield just get the temperatures up a little bit too high, too early? He has to back off just a bit right now, get those temperatures in check, and then he can start pushing once again. Of course, when he's getting those temperatures back in check, getting them back down, wants to make sure that he doesn't fall into the clutches of Sora and Stanton. And they're coming quickly, now down to about 4.5 tenths. Depends on when you clock them. But these two battling as well is going to be favorable for the 15 car. It's going to give him just a little bit more breathing room up front until they can decide amongst themselves who should be in the second position for now. Sora maintains it. And when they're single file, these two close in on Frankenfield at a pretty rapid rate here, down to 0.4 of a second. Frankenfield, a little bit of an advantage in the first half of the track, and then through 3 and 4, it really does seem like it's Sora and Stanton with the advantage. Especially coming out of the corner, and we know that about Frankenfield, one of the best on corner entry, but often mid-corner and corner exit is where he sometimes gives up pace, but so strong on the brakes. Frankenfield, I think, has one of the best feels on the brakes of any driver. He can get that car, dive it in late, and still get it slowed down to make the apex of a corner. And he shows off that skills at any track that we go to. He's showing that off right now. Very quick entering the corner, but of course that's going to just slow you down, hurt your exit speed just a little bit. But it's hanging on and working for him right now. He's actually responding here now by extending that gap out to about half a second ahead of Presley Sora. So Sora gonna try again on Stanton, and where have we seen this? Stanton using that outside lane, takes over second position. And nothing Sora can do there. You got to protect that outside lane, Presley. I don't know if he's as comfortable running the outside as Stanton is, but you can just tell Jeffrey Stanton extremely comfortable right up against the wall, and that seems to just be the best line here, especially when it comes to overtaking. Now, Frankenfield, I'm sure, saw that in his mirrors, saw how that move shaked out, and now with Stanton on his gearbox, if I'm Frankenfield, I am not getting away from the outside lane. I'm not getting away from the wall here, and you see that there. One lane off the wall for Frankenfield. Stanton's going to try and keep going higher, but I just don't know if he'll have the room to do so. This is the kind of defensive driving that Frankenfield needs to do here. Take away the preferred lane of Stanton. I think we even saw he wasn't able to make much of a move on the inside lane, so you control that outside, you can control the rest of this field. Go on board here with Stanton. Working his way off of turn number 2. And so we saw actually in when we were on the onboard with Sora, he had 2 downshifts, so actually went down to, I believe, either second gear or he was, third gear, or he was up in 6th and dropped 2 gears to get down to 4th. But it looks like pretty clear 4th gear, at least running this high lane. You're carrying a little bit more speed, possibly when you get down to the corner lower in the corner, you want to just drop that gear a little bit, give yourself some better rotation. But look at this. Stanton is not struggling for rotation in that car right now. Maybe a little bit on corner entry, but you can just see on exit how the rear end just gets loose. He's able to control that and gives him incredible drive off. Frankenfield kind of on the opposite end of that, where he's able to get that nose pointed where he wants it on corner entry, but then struggles maybe a little bit tight off corner. And Stanton had a look, but with the lapped car in the way, you don't really want to take too much of a risk there. Joshua Osborne then goes down a lap, and here we go. Battle back on between these two, and we're going to stay on board here with Stanton. I think this is really intriguing to see how he changes his line lap after lap and how he's trying to work Frankenfield. I think he's found as well where Frankenfield's strengths and weaknesses are. And on corner exit, on corner entry, it almost feels like Stanton is backing off just that little bit more. You can see that gap open to Frankenfield, and corner exit, he steps back on it, and there it just closes back up. Even though Frankenfield had the higher lane and had more track to really stretch out his legs and gain speed on corner exit. Look at that, incredible pace there off of turn number 2 for Stanton. He's going to have a legitimate shot here through 3 and 4. He's going to slide up the racetrack. Careful now. He wants to stay on the track. He does, but he now has the preferred line, and Chad Frankenfield not quite clear, but this time he is. So Stanton with an opportunity, just not quite able to make it stick. But that's the drive off that Stanton's getting. He knows that's the weak spot for Chad Frankenfield. Took advantage of it, just wasn't able to finish the move, but he knows the recipe now to getting past this 15 car, and he has an opportunity to do it again. We're only on lap 40 of 75. He has just under half this race to do it, and he very well could do it. Could Stanton go 2 for 2 here at Lucas Oil Raceway in these in these Road to Indy 2000 cars? He's going to try it on the inside. I don't quite know if that's going to be the place to do it, Stanton, but he's trying to get the run off the corner, and he definitely has that advantage over Frankenfield. And if he can just stay close on corner entry, he's got a legitimate shot at taking over this lead. Let's not count out Presley Sora either, as those two have been squabbling. Sora has, as I just say that, Sora's rejoined this lead battle, but he taps that outside wall coming off of 2. That could hurt his forward momentum. Ethan Stanley also certainly not out of it. It's these 4 who've walked away from Scott Crump in 5th, and these 4 who are likely going to be where the winner comes from. Sora continues to prefer that lower lane relative to Frankenfield and Stanton. In 1 and 2, he seems to be getting up there, but at 3 and 4, he just doesn't have that same comfort, and once again, really close to that outside wall. So Sora dealing with tightness coming off of 2, or possibly an overcorrection of just too loose coming off of 2 and letting that car slide up to the outside of the racetrack. Meanwhile, Stanton somehow has reversed the handling on that car. He's tight entering the corner, loose exiting, almost a kind of what you'd prefer depending on who you are as a driver. But if you can just get that nose in, even if it's tight entering, if you can still get that your nose to where you want it to be, having that ability to rotate the car on exit is so important to good lap time and ability to overtake. Again, we saw on board there just how much and just how well he was able to get rotated, get past Chad Frankenfield, and create a run despite not having that outside preferred lane. Of course, now can he repeat that, or has Frankenfield learned? You know, we talked so much about how Stanton has learned. He now knows a way past Frankenfield. Has Frankenfield changed his line around this racetrack, the way he attacks the braking zones? Does he now have a better way at fending off the Freedom 50 winner? We'll find out here, folks. We're approaching in just 1 lap time, 20 to go as the 04 Bill Colley gets out of the way of the leaders as he goes 1 lap down. Here we go, already running lap 50 of 75 here. It's Frankenfield, Stanton, Sora, Stanley. And the gap back to Scott Crump, Mark Murphy, Chris Wilhite, and Josh Batista. Batista and Wilhite, excuse me, I think it's Wilhite and Murphy are having a great little scrap as well. Murphy struggling just a little bit here, dropped a position from his qualifying spot and may lose another here to Wilhite in that 7 Marlboro car. Again, Wilhite trying that bottom lane, and I'm not quite sure that's going to be the best option to get by a driver in front. It doesn't work for him that time by, but we'll keep an eye on that. Could Wilhite take over 6, potentially get to Scott Crump? Crump, though, 2 seconds up the road from these guys, so that may be it for Batista. Great battle, though. We'll keep an eye out on that for 7th. Meanwhile, of course, our battle for the lead. Can't really look away from this for too long, because you never know when that run is going to form for Stanton, if that run is going to form for Presley Sora, or if somehow can Ethan Stanley poke his nose in there and get involved in this battle for the lead. 23 laps to go here at Lucas Oil Raceway. Stanton so close to the gearbox of Frankenfield, and we talked about it in the Freedom 150, just how much trust you have to have in these drivers around you when you're racing at these close quarters. Once again, here's on board with Frankenfield, but here's on board with Stanton. This will give you a better idea as to the close quarters type racing that these guys really have. A reminder that all of this is taking place at 130 plus miles per hour. And a little bit tight there on entry for Stanton. He had to lift up out of it. It'll give him a run, though, off the corner, and almost, that tightness entering the corner helped him, it felt like. But here you go, once again, trying to get the run off the corner, a little bit tentative on the throttle. You could hear that. And he just needs to find a place where he can feel confident off of turn 2 or turn 4, get onto the throttle. But here we go, Presley Sora, can't quite see him, but he's there on the inside. So these guys are racing extremely hard, as we're already at 18 laps to go now in this race. Presley Sora here, he's fallen back a little bit. Watch on board from him. Stanton looking to the inside, he's gonna try this again, gonna drive in deep on Frankenfield. Trying to get the run off, but that's a tough one to do there, taking that low of a line out of 4. Like, unless the guy up top really has an issue on throttle, that's not quite going to work. You've basically got to squeeze him up to the top of the racetrack, use as much of the racetrack as you possibly can if you're trying to use this bottom lane. And so Sora on his own, more comfortable off the top of the wall there. You can see a lane lower in turns 1 and 2. I think he's almost 2 to 3 lanes lower in 3 and 4. There he is, 1 lane lower this time by. And he shifts down to 4th. As Stanton gonna try again. This time, could he clear Frankenfield? As Sora has to worry about Ethan Stanley now. But here we go, Frankenfield up top, Stanton on the apron, slides the car up the racetrack. That's going to kill his momentum, and Scott Crump is all of a sudden back in this battle. Scott Crump out of nowhere, 3 wide, slices past Presley Sora. And could he pull something incredible off here? To the inside now of Stanton, to the inside of Frankenfield. Incredible run that Scott Crump has had over these past couple laps. Didn't even notice him a few laps ago. And just as this battling's been going on up front, Scott Crump all of a sudden is a major contender to put that 90 car in victory lane. He's ahead of Stanton. And now just needs to get ahead of Frankenfield. These two have come together before on the racetrack, in the Cup Series, in the Xfinity Series. They race each other hard, despite the fact that in most of those series, they're teammates. But Scott Crump, what a run he's put together possibly saving tires early on, but he's in the lead with 11 to go. Incredible pace from this 90 car, and now Frankenfield struggling. Stanton moves past the 15 car. 15 going to try and get back past, but Stanton with the preferred line up top. Now it's going to be between the 16 and the 90 for the lead of this one, as Frankenfield has to fend off Soro. And all of a sudden, that 15 car, who was looking so strong for the majority of the night, possibly just too much temperature in those tires, burned through them just a little bit too much, and now he's struggling, hanging on to P3. Meanwhile, Scott Crump, Jeffrey Stanton, your top two, and they're chasing the lead. Soro almost clear. Crump, about a 1/10 of a second ahead of Stanton. Frankenfield staying ahead of Soro right now. Ethan Stanley now in this battle. This battle for the lead, though, is far from over. They've stretched out their gap ahead of the rest of the pack. It's a two-man race right now. The question is, which of these drivers will be in victory lane? Frankenfield complaining about tire fall off, and that's pretty evident on the way his pace has fallen off these past couple of laps now. 19.8 for the leaders, 20.3 for Frankenfield last time by. Pretty sudden. It's amazing just how quickly that all happened. And so for Crump, who likely was sitting back, saving those tires, knowing that it would come to fruition at the end of this one, is reaping those benefits as he leads with 5 laps to go. What can Stanton do to go back-to-back at Lucas Oil Raceway? Can he do that? Or will Scott Crump ruin his chances? Frankenfield, clear for now of Stanley and Soro, who've both also struggled from tire fall-off as of late, as Chris Wilhite is all of a sudden back in the picture here. How quickly things can change for drivers who are still on the lead lap here. Wilhite, who was in 7th, fighting multiple seconds off the lead, all of a sudden now fighting for a top 4 position in this race. As the fight continues up front here, Stanton, does he have one last effort to get past? It just doesn't seem like he has that for Scott Crump. They've been matching each other perfectly lap after lap, and if you're looking to make an overtake, that's not quite what you want, and the white flag waves for Scott Crump. From 5th, 2 seconds behind the top 4, with about 20 laps to go, to the lead in an incredible run, an incredible show of patience and tire conservation. Scott Crump pulls off the win in the Freedom 75 ahead of Jeffrey Stanton. Chad Frankenfield is going to hang on from pole to 3rd place. Those tires are done. He's done. Chris Wilhite into 4th ahead of Presley Sora, Ethan Stanley, and Mark Murphy. Josh Batista, the last car in the lead lap. What a finish there. Tires barely making it to the end for these drivers. Scott Crump, what an incredible showing there from the driver of the number 90. And that is such an impressive win there. The only one in the field who was really able to see that drop-off in tire wear coming and use that to his advantage. Stanton hung on for as long as he could. Possibly the fastest car on track, Jeffrey Stanton, over the course of those 75 laps. But Scott Crump, man, incredible strategy play, incredible drive up to the front of that one. And he absolutely deserves this victory lap. He's going to celebrate that one. Wow, what a race. And with that, the fireworks going off here at Lucas Oil Raceway. We're going to pull up those final results. We walked you through them. But just a reminder, Scott Crump, Jeffrey Stanton, neither of them are regulars in the Mega Driver 86 INDYCAR Series. both finished top 2. Chad Frankenfield in the first of our regulars. 6 seconds adrift with those tire problems in the final 15 laps. Chris Wilhite, what a drive back to P4. Presley Sora, Ethan Stanley, Mark Murphy, all struggling with tires towards the end there. Josh Batista, Bill Colley, and Josh Osborne finishing out the top 10, and all of our finishers here in the Freedom 75. And with that, 3 of our 4 events are complete for this Carb Day Spectacular, and it's going to be the Carb Night Classic coming up next. That's 100 laps around this very racetrack in the sprint cars. So yet again, they'll park the Indy Pro 2000s next to those USF 2000s, hop on over to the sprint cars, and we'll be back with you folks around 9:50 p.m. So make sure you're staying tuned here for another half hour, and we'll have that 100-lap event coming up very shortly. I've been Rish Khosla. I will be back with you folks at 9:50 p.m. Talk to you then. Folks, there's 24 laps to go in this Carb Night Classic. I'm back with you. Thanks so much for enjoying the nonstop action that we've had on the racetrack with these sprint cars. It's been spectacular racing with Presley Sora, Josh Bautista, Jeffrey Stanton leading the way. Couple of cautions, couple more than we've seen so far tonight in some of our other events in those, in the Indy Pros and the USF 2000s and even the INDYCARs. But these cars proven to be just a little bit more difficult to handle, especially up against the wall. Guys struggling with just tracking up towards that outside wall, getting those tires to catch on them, and resulting in some pretty major flips. We just saw that with Mark Murphy. We saw that with Gavin Newton as well for the first caution of the night. We even saw a little bit of contact between Frankenfield and Scott Crump, though. That particular incident wasn't contact with the wall, but contact between two cars. Nonetheless, the racing has been spectacular, as always, and we've got a great battle going on here for the lead right now with Soro, Stanton, and Bautista. It was Stanton and Bautista who started on the front row alongside each other, but it was Soro who's driven up to the lead as Stanton actually had a pretty rough start, fell back to about 5th, and is now back up and challenging here for the lead of this race. As Frankenfield also working, trying to get back into the picture here for the lead with 19 laps to go. And this event almost done for the night. Thank you all so much, those of you who have tuned in tonight to enjoy the wide variety of different races that we've put on here. All building up to, of course, the 10th running of the Elite Indianapolis 500 presented by Richmar Florist, happening tomorrow evening. Very excited for that event. A lot of special ceremonies before that event gets rolling. We're excited to have Mario Andretti, of course, as the official, as the official Grand Marshal for that event. He'll be given the call to start engines for the drivers, and so that'll be great to hear from him. Guest pace car drivers. It'll be a whole event prior to that, and then of course 500 miles of some of the best racing you'll see on iRacing. Cannot wait for that. But tonight, it's 16 to go. Presley Sora, Jeffrey Stanton, and Josh Bautista all going at it. And this is so intriguing to watch here in these sprint cars. Very different, of course, to the Formula cars that we've been watching all night so far. The way that they're able to run the entire width of this racetrack, those, the USF 2000s, and then to a lesser extent the Indy Pro 2000s were really constrained to kind of running that top lane. You could run a lower lane, but you could see that it was either maybe just as fast or just not quite as beneficial. It feels like guys are able to kind of spread out, fan out, and find ways that around this racetrack that work for them, that make them more comfortable at any one point in the run. And so Stanton, interestingly enough, was down low heading into turns 1 and 2. We've talked about him all night being one of the guys who runs all the way at the top of the racetrack, but trying something different this time by as he's fending off Chad Frankenfield. Meanwhile, there you see Bautista and Soro running pretty high up, but then kind of diving down maybe 1 or 2 lanes off of the top of the racetrack, exiting the corner. So we see that here again. There they are, entering high, exiting low. And now everybody's starting to converge a little bit there on that same line. And Soro putting on an incredible defensive run right now. But here comes Bautista with an inside look. That's not enough. He needs to get that run. We've talked about it. Bautista here, let's ride on board with this 2 car. It's so difficult to build that run up, as we kind of see there. For him, a similar driving style maybe to Frankenfield, actually maybe even a little bit different to that, more of a diamond type style where he's aggressive in, aggressive out, loses pace though in the middle of the corner. So again, different ways of approaching this this type of racetrack, different ways of approaching this race. And right now it's working for Bautista. He's having an opportunity though, not quite there. Didn't have the room to really track up the racetrack like he wanted to, and that gives that spot back to Presley Soro with 10 to go. Heard some contact. Yeah, there was. Yellow flag out. It's Chad Frankenfield. Let's take a look here. What happened to the 15 car? Here he is. Oh, and again, similar to what we saw there with Mark Murphy, just contact with that outside wall. Ooh. Quick avoidance there. I think that was Chris Wilhite, who just barely missed Chad Frankenfield. And so Frankenfield keeps that car pointed in the right direction. And there we go, 7 to go. This could be a sprint to the finish here. Wouldn't that be a fitting way to end this one? It's been some incredible racing for sure. All throughout the night, but especially here in this most recent event. Again, just feels like the cars have more of an ability to run up and down the racetrack, try different moves, try different lines, you know, versus those the Formula cars. I think those still gave some great racing in their own respect as well. If it does become necessary, there will be a green-white checker. I did just hear in on race control from that, so that kind of following the NASCAR-style rules on that. We don't like to end races under caution if we can help them, but we should go back to green here within standard time. And only if we get one more caution will we need to use that green-white checker. So hopefully we won't. I would love to see this go green to the end, as lights are now off on the pace car. Love these short cautions that we get around this racetrack, not pacing for too long. And now the battle with Sora, Batista, Stanton, Crump, Wilhite, Frankenfield will resume. All 6 of them realistically have a shot here. You know, we've been watching that top 3 battle, Sora, Batista, and Stanton. But Crump, of course, we know how he came from absolutely nowhere in the 75, in the Freedom 75, that is, to win that event. Chris Wilhite as well has been good at saving his tires, but we're back to green flag racing. 4 laps to go. It really is a sprint in the sprint cars for this Carb Night Classic. Presley Sora, great launch away from the rest of the pack. Batista now has to play catch-up and has to do that while under pressure from Jeffrey Stanton. As the 5th caution comes out, Scott Crump has crashed, and we will go to a green-white checker. What happened here to the 90 car? Could that be it's the same incident that we've seen time and time again? Drivers just continuously not having a great feel for where that outside wall is. There's Crump. Just the car loses control. It's almost like you get on the power. It careens to the right and forces these guys into the wall, and there we go. 5th caution of the night. And it's going to lead us into our one and only green-white checker attempt. So for those of you who maybe aren't familiar, who are you know, more used to the INDYCAR Series and the way they do things, in NASCAR and the Cup Series and the Xfinity Series, the Truck Series, and I think even some of the lower series there as well, they try not to end the races under caution, try to give the fans a race to the checkered flag. And the way to do that is if you do have a caution, when the checkered flag would normally be waved, the race is extended by 2 laps. Though, pace car already off the racetrack. We might get this underway before using our green-white checker. 2 to go. This is regulation time. Batista in the wall. So we're not using it just yet. Here we go. Sora, if he takes the white flag, no matter what happens next, the next flag that comes out will call the race, whether that's the checkered flag or the yellow flag. But here we go. Sora, around turns 3 and 4, crosses the start-finish line. We will finish this race in regulation time. The question, of course, will be, though, who is going to be the race winner? I don't know if Stanton or Batista are close enough. Stanton is past Batista, but it's too little, too late. Vengeance for the Freedom 50 earlier tonight. It looked like he could have won then. He's going to win now, though. Presley Sora wins the Carb Night Classic here at Lucas Oil Raceway and ends the night on a high. What a drive there. What an incredible race, folks. Fantastic driving by all of these guys. to put together this show. Just 10 cars in the field, but his cars in the wall there at the end of that one. But certainly just an impressive showing from everybody here. As finally we get to see some guys burning it down. We saw that a bit with Scott Crump. He also did his reverse victory lap, and Presley Sora giving us the donuts right there at the start-finish straight. And the burnouts. Look at that. Presley Sora's figured that out. He's had some practice there too. Take a look at those final results. Just 10 cars took the start. Gavin Newton was the only driver who made his first start of the night here tonight, and unfortunately didn't last too long. Down 43 laps, just last about 7 laps there. Bill Colley as well went out earlier on. Mark Murphy, another one of those cautions that came out. And then Ethan Stanley down 3 laps. Frankenfield in 6th, and then your top 5. Presley Sora, your winner. Jeffrey Stanton, what a night for him. First position in the Freedom 50, second in the 75, second in the Carb Night Classic. Batista finishes 3rd here. Chris Wilhite and then Scott Crump finishes in the top 5. Well, folks, I don't know if you can tell, but my voice is certainly worn. It's been a long night for sure. I hope you at least have enjoyed the action on the racetrack at home. Apologies for not being able to bring you the full action from that the most recent event here at the Carb Night Classic, but saving up as much as I can for, of course, the main event tomorrow night. And that's really what this is all about here. These were all fun races, but all of these drivers with their focuses turned now towards the big one, the Indianapolis 500. And it's a special one, the 10th running of the Indy 500 here in the Elite Racing Leagues. Incredible how much history has been built up around this event. The way qualifying works a week prior, bumping, the number of cars we enter into the race, and of course, always limit it to just those 33 who can participate. Have had some incredible names take part, incredible names win the race, and well, hopefully we'll be writing another chapter in the history books in about 24 hours' time. But it's been an absolute pleasure to bring you folks all the build-up towards that Indy 500, and we'll be back with you tomorrow evening as well. I've been Rish Khosla, producing and commentating tonight. I'm going to go rest my voice. You guys should get some rest and get ready for a spectacular event tomorrow as well. But with that, have a good night, and I will see you all next time.